Oh, yes, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Tales of the Cypher, episode 74, season 3. Feels like we haven't done this in months because we haven't done this in months. But baby, we are back today, like we've never left. And we're back for I don't know how long, but we're back. We're back.
We'll do a proper return.
Voila. So thank you for everyone for the messages, the DMs, and where have you guys been and all that. We know that this wasn't really like announced or whatever. We kind of just like stopped releasing episodes, but we're happy to be back. We have a very special guest for you guys today. But before we get started, remember to follow us and check us out on Instagram and Facebook. I'm Rusty at CYPHERSONS, and the show is available for you guys to listen for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and all that, all those kinds of places. And voila, very excited about today's episode. EMIL, how you feel about this upcoming show that we have for you guys?
Yeah, no, very excited. I mean, we've been trying to book this for quite some time, and it's finally worked out. We're all busy people, so really appreciate it. But I guess, yes, without further ado, we got Tash from Flow Rock. Thank you so much for your time. I know you're in Vegas time, so appreciate it. How are you?
I'm great. What's up, everybody?
Let's go.
It's good to be here. Yes. Thank you for inviting me.
It's great to do this and to have a guest. Like SUGY said, it's been a little while, so we're happy to be back with you. You know, I'm sure we got a lot of things to question about and ask about. We had a similar type of questioning when we did it with DKC, but yeah. Anyway, very excited to do it with you. I guess kind of to start it, we did want to change up the format a bit from our last episodes, but kind of necessary to. We're just curious a bit. We know your dancing isn't just breaking. You've done a lot more. You've done jazz, ballet, locking, all that stuff. Can you tell us a bit about your whole background before I start bastardizing it?
No problem. Yeah, well, I think I probably started dancing in the belly of my mother for sure. And then when I was 4 is my first memory of me just freestyling in my living room. I used to live in Montreal North, and then, slowly, I think my parents discovered that, or they saw that I had an inkling towards dancing. So my grandmother paid for my first ballet classes, and I hated ballet. I was like, it was so technical and, rigid, and I just wanted to freestyle. So then I begged to go to jazz, and then they were like, no, because I was too young, and they don't let people get to jazz too quick because it kind of stunts your growth. And, but then I got into jazz around 8 years old. And then from then on, I was always watching music videos, and, this for me was Michael Jackson. It was all about that. So I was imitating anything I could see on TV. So the moment, I saw all that street dancing, breaking, but breaking was very difficult because we'd get these records. And it had these foldings inside of with the pictures of step 1, I used to call break dance, step 2. And, we'd just get the cardboard and start spinning, and literally, skin would rub off, and it was just so painful. So we would mix everything. But then really when I saw breaking 1 is when I really fell in love with locking.
Okay.
Although I saw it all my life, and I grew up watching Soul Train, from the time that I was my parents in the 70s. So I don't remember the first time I saw it, but I always watched it. So I always saw locking on TV Saturday morning. So that was, my exposure, seeing all these singers, James Brown on Soul Train. A lot of TV shows in Montreal had dancing,
Interesting.
In the 70s and the 80s too. We had Pop Express, On Danse, on Roule. There's so many things that was, because Montreal was such a party city. So it was easy. My parents would go out always to the discotheque, and for me it was like I couldn't wait. So really breaking, learning breaking as itself came way later, because I was always somebody that wanted to learn from the fundamentals, getting into the foundation of things. So until I could get a real good teachers or get really into it, I only started breaking at 28. But I started over because, of course, I could spin on my back when I was 14, because that's the time that I saw breaking one. 14 years old, I fell in love with locking, but there was all of it mixed up in it: breaking, popping, locking. And my dream was the American dream, literally. I wanted to go to US, learn all of these styles, especially locking. But breaking was always in my heart, in the sense that, I was a physical kind of type of girl. I like to hang around with boys. I used to play sports. My father raised me as a boy. So I was a tomboy. So for me, it was like, I wanted to be better than the guys. So to get to, it died. B-boying died, I'm talking about 84 when breaking one, and not soon after that, it was already like going down. So, I mean, nobody was doing it anymore. So we had to find other things. And for me, locking was that other thing, but that died too. So, but it didn't die. It just went underground. We thought, it just went underground. It was harder to get the keys, the codes, and the people, because you got to think, we were really far in Montreal. So our first access was New York, but to go to LA, oh my God, that was another, that was expensive. So that didn't happen for me until B-Boy Summit 1999. So I went and I skipped some steps, but that's basically that's basically the whole thing. Yeah.
When you got older, did you finally go to the discotheque, but like with your parents?
Well, you know what? My parents used to bring me to the discotheque even before I was a professional dancer by the age of 14. I was already touring in Quebec in shows. I was doing shows and I was doing locking based shows. We had a group called Comedy's Gang. Like I said, I was, raised in Montreal North. I spent my childhood here. It's like, that's the ghetto of Canada, right? You're thinking about, anybody coming out of Montreal North in one piece is a big deal.
So you've
especially in those days. Huh?
So you've never, not that never is not the word, but like you already lived that professional dancer touring life before doing that battles only life. Like, because even by then there wasn't really a battles phase just yet, right? So you were already living that.
Yeah, there was no battles whatsoever. But the thing is that in the clubs, because you got to think, I was already 14 when I went to start performing in clubs. Of course, I couldn't go to clubs, but by 16, I had my son Jesse, so I was already considered, like an adult, even though I was 16 and I was a teenage mother. So I was already clubbing a lot, because I'd be like, well, I live by myself. Like, what are you going to do? And a lot of the bouncers would let me in the club. But by 18, I was fully going into clubs. And the thing is, in those days, there was no, of course, Montreal, I'm talking about 87, 88, 89. When you're clubbing in Montreal at that time, there's a lot of different types of dancers. We're all battling in a sense of, it's not a b-boy battle or a locking battle or pop. It's like styles versus other styles, so it's basically the best dancer in the club that's gonna, rep whatever. And then that's why for me, I had these super power moves, that's like, it wasn't like breaking moves. It was just like, okay, I would do the knee drops. I would do all of these things that, that were powerful that lockers do, but also hip hop, you had all of these things in hip hop, dance, of course, street dance, that you could throw at your opponents. But it was really like the cypher would organically form, the beat would come on, because we're talking about the late 80s. So it's the New Jack Swing era, and that New Jack Swing era was all about party dance, and it's all club dance. And we called it trendy dance, right? Because a lot of people call it New Jack Swing, but it's New Jack Swing is the music, it's not the dance. But that music pushed us to go further. So I still remember how some of the pioneers at that time in the early 90s, they were like this shit is whack, you know, like because the especially the b-boys, they thought, you know, it was too commercial. It's kind of like what trap is today, right? So a lot of our pioneers, our elders, b-boys, were like, this is whack, we don't do that. Yet we're like, this is my generation, you know, I'm 20, I'm fully like MC Hammer, all of that stuff is what it is. And the music is super fast. So we're battling, we're doing that. And that's also how we got our gigs. It's in the clubs. You go to the club, people see you, they go, yeah, we have an audition. I mean, that's how I got my first auditions, to go on tour with some of the rappers and singers from Canada and Montreal, right? So just being in the club, you're seen. And if you miss one night or miss one weekend, it's the end of the world. Like, you have to be there. You have to get dressed. It's a whole, it's a lifestyle. It was a lifestyle. Yeah.
You're opening so many doors in so little time.
Yeah.
Wow.
I have a very good memory. Like, people like, so yeah.
Well, you're picturing us, you're painting us, sorry, like a very clear picture of what the energy and the context is. And what you just said right now is kind of like, it's also an eye-opener to say, like, opportunities used to come to I mean, I'm sure the hardest person, but also it was a matter of timing, right? It's more like it feels like now it's a really different ballpark where you're portraying yourself on social media, you're selling yourself through an agency, you're posting this, you're posting that, and it's like, it's about who you know and all that stuff. Whereas like from what you're describing, anyone and everyone could make it if they were working hard enough and at the right place at the right time, which is a completely crazy concept when you compare it to what we're experiencing today. The question I wanted to ask you is, you already mentioned like the dance, like kind of like dying out after the 80s and the beginning of the 1990s. We spoke to DKC, as you know, a few months ago already through the podcast, and he shared a story about how like he met you guys at a I think it's a Craig Mack concert. EMIL, am I right?
I don't know if it was Craig Mack, but yeah, it was some show. Yeah, for sure.
It was some show in Montreal, and like DKC was like sitting at the top of like, I don't know, at the top level of the venue, and then he was looking down and he saw Cypher. He tried to, I think it was like Dazzle and some other people. And since we heard that story, I think we've just been dying to understand like what Montreal was like in those few like short years, like before everything blew up. Like you mentioned like B-Boy Summit and like all of those big jams that happened in the late 90s, but there's like a little like bubble of time that's like very dark and obscure, and I don't know if you can shed some light on like,
we got teased by it.
Some of the stuff that happened in the early 90s, if you remember any of that.
Well, I can. Well, that event, that thing that DKC talked about, I wasn't even with Flow Rock yet. I wasn't, because he got in before me. I was probably the last one to get in. No, I was before Clata, before Dr. Step. And or at the same time. That's not true. And
even our Flow Rock timeline is pretty messed up, because like we spoke to Zig, we spoke to D, we spoke to Doc.
Yeah. And after me, I mean, Soul Step, and then Nene, and that's it, you know. But there was Crazy Smooth, like he's part of the fam because he was with us, you know. Yeah, and so it's a bit. But when I came in, I was with, you know, well, I'm stepping some step, but I was with Rainbow Crew. That's a whole other story. But the thing is before that, when I was watching all those guys, you know, like breaking, like I was already, you got to think, me and DKC is older than me, but I was already older. Like I'm 50 now. So I'm already, in those days, I'm already touring. I'm already on stage. I'm already in the clubs. I like, first and foremost, you couldn't break in the club. You'd get kicked out by the bouncers. So it was impossible unless somebody was throwing an event, and sometimes some of us dancers would pull out our big moves, but you got to think hip hop, we're still dancing standing, and we'd throw one move in, like one dive, and then the bouncer would be like, hey, come in, stop, because they don't want all of the guests to, like you see legs and drinks, because we're on the floor with our drinks, right? So there was always this like, little tension, but every time the hip hop clubs would get really good, it would attract all the dancers, the b-boys, because the b-boys are always there, but it's not really there. There's like, we've stopped, but we didn't really stop. I mean, I was like a locker. People call me the girl that danced with her arms a lot, because they didn't understand, because I'm still a hip hop dancer. We're all hip hop dancers in a certain way, because that's the club, that's what we do. We just dance, we listen to hip hop. And then organically, sometimes things would start popping in the place. And so one of the good things that happened was places like Fufun Electric, where, like somebody would throw a little event, and then all of a sudden, you'd see people coming out of nowhere getting down. And a lot of, for us, sometimes it was like the OGs. I've seen like OG lockers that I've never known existed. They're party pimps and stuff coming out and crashing a little event, the first ciphers we had. But the thing is that, only, and I could tell you from my perspective, when I started seeing things coming back up, because it was purely about, touring, like 10 crew of dancers going on tour, backup dancing with, like I was with MC Jane Cool G, I was with Freddie James, I was with all these singers, Alan Prater, I went on tour along with DJ Choice from the Mexic, and that was our era where we're touring, and there's a lot of hip hop rap groups touring, the Mexic, all these people are touring. Zero Tolerance was like the famous group. I know them very well, right, at that time. So, but that was basically what was happening, is like you'd see the dancing, then the music videos, that's when the calls would come, okay, like we need a dancer for this music video. So they would hire b-boys in the early 90s or late 80s, not so much, but early 90s, you saw this surge. And all of a sudden, I remember being home. Now I have 3 kids, and my boyfriend at the time, Danny Blanco, was a singer, best friend with DKC. So I already knew DKC. My boyfriend since 91. I already knew him before he even went into Flow Rock. So few years happen, stretch. I'm on tour, on and off. Then I have, my daughter. And then I remember she was 2. I'm living in NDG by now. And DKC kept like coming to my house and go, yeah, you should come to Côte d'Ivoire. You should come to Côte d'Ivoire, like you should come practice with us, because they knew I could lock. I've been locking since I'm 14, right? He knew. So, and I was like, yeah, when, my baby's 2. And then one day he comes to my house with a VHS tape, and he pops it in, right? And it's a VHS, I think it's DJ Zadio. He went to Brux, to Belgium, and came back with a tape of Storm. That famous tape where Storm is spinning like 5 minutes on his head or something like that. Like it's the first time we see somebody, like we're like already, the last time I saw people spinning on their heads when in the 80s, they drill and crash, But now all of a sudden I'm sitting in my living room like going, oh my God, I think it's 94, 95, 96, something like that. I think it was, probably 95, 96. Yeah. And I'm like, and then I see, of course, like Swift Rock and all of them, and they do like a locking, and the locking was but so I'm looking all of it, and I'm like, this is happening again, and I'm like, what? Like it's still alive in Europe? And then so Dicky says, yeah, man. So all of a sudden it's like, you gotta come to train with us, and I'm like, But in the meantime, as I'm doing the music videos, I'm a choreographer. At this point, I book a lot of dancers. I'm just all over the place. I do this video for these rappers from France. I am or Alif Pussy. And we hire a whole bunch of breakers, you know, and they hire me as another dancer. And I meet Pete, Sky Pete, and, you know, from, what's his name? From Rainbow Crew, Cal Godin.
Oui. Trackmaster.
Yeah. Trackmaster. So I meet him. In the meantime, around that same, I'm seeing, you know, like other crews start to come out, because what we had in Montreal was, you know, these big shows produced by Ricky D. Yep. And also Gary T. And they would host these talent shows, you know. So in the talent shows, you'd have, I'd see many times, and I wasn't with them yet, I'd see Tactical Crew, you know, perform their like showpiece, you know, and I'd be like, oh, okay, you know, like good power moves, but I was just like, but they had a good show. And I still remember seeing all of these people starting again slowly, but I was always on underground looking from the outside, observing. Mm-hmm. And so in that video set, I'm like doing my thing, and then the guys from Rainbow Crew, well, I think they're starting Rainbow Crew, and they're like training, like, oh, you should come and train. But since Pete, Pierre is, you know, also the guy that I'm dating that's best friend with DKC, he's a stepbrother, you know. So
oh my God.
Yeah. So now it's family. So we meet for the first time. It's like, yo, I'm Danny Blanco's stepbrother, blah, blah, blah. Like they have the same father, his father adopted Pete. So I'm like, oh, okay. So then they invite me to a session, but we're sessioning on a video set. And then they're teaching me a few things. And I'm like, I learn quick. So I'm like, okay. So I start practicing, like, you know, was it a 4-step? I skipped some steps, of course. So I get really good real quick. So they put me in the crew. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever, you know, like, because we're always performing. So doing things. And doing music videos. So now there's like this other clique that's, you know, always doing many videos. Same thing as Dazzle and Flow Rock. Dazzle was doing other videos, more on the Francophone side. And that's the thing, you know, like we didn't cross each other, even though, because, you know, you got to think, I'm from Montreal North. I've already moved to NDG, but DKC is in Côte de Neige. I'm, you know, like I'm touring. So it's like a lot of crossing. When I'm going in a club, I'm going for, like, you know, the party dance, you know, like scene more. I'm not in the, like, I still go to the underground, but I'm going to like Jello Bar already. Like I'm going to these places where the young dancers are not going there, you know. And so like what happens is I eventually decide I'm gonna go, because DKC is in my. And every time he comes to my house to visit Danny, like, you need to come. And Danny's like, you need to go. So I think it was 1997 when I finally went to one like Côte de Neige practice. And I show up, I go in, everybody's there, you know, Dr. Zig, DKC, of course, he invited me, Daz, I think Patana was also dating Freezer at the time. And Mook was dating Zig at the time. So there was a few girls that I were into like breaking also. And I just start learning. I'm like, okay, well, teach me, you know, the 6-step, you know. So they teach me the 6-step, and then they teach me, and then they leave. And I'm like, I'm like, guys. And so I start learning it standing up like a dancer, you know. And they're like, no, you got to go down. I'm like, no. Like I have to understand the pattern first. And it's at that point that I start at one point locking, and then everybody's like, you know, because they haven't seen anybody lock in Montreal. Nobody locks anymore in Montreal. Mm-hmm. So, but I've been locking for a long time. So the girls are Patana is more attracted to it. You know, she comes to me, she's like, oh my God, I hate locking. But now that I see you doing it, I love it. So I remember leaving that practice, and then they started inviting me to St. Max, and they started inviting me to this and back to like Côte de Neige. And then at one point they take me outside of Côte de Neige. They go, yeah, like, we want you with us. You need to, you know, we don't want you to be with Rainbow Crew. Because at this point, I already did a rave, and I already did like one battle with Rainbow Crew at Sauna.
Yeah.
You know, so, and then, you know, so they're just like, no, you know, like, you can't be with Rainbow Crew, you got to be with us. So I'm like, I feel bad for leaving Rainbow Crew. So they go, no, we need to learn from you, Locking. We need to learn what you know. You would be a good addition. And at that time, there was no girls part of crews. I think I was the first one. There was Kat, which was a DJ. She was a girl, but she kind of left for New York really early. And Manuel, you know, Cleopatra went to Tactical a little bit after me. She, you know. But so anyway, they battled me. They did my initiation. Everybody battled me. And was it in St. Max that they battled me? Or yeah, I think it was at St. Max.
They basically
battled you
they
battled you as a locker, or
no, as a B-boy, because I already knew some things, you know, like as a B-girl. So I had to like go back as, you know, and do whatever I knew. It was not much at the time, but they battled me as like, you know, one by one, you know, they went at me and I went back in. And but the thing is, my skills is so like, I have locking and I have hip hop and I have, and the thing that I would always go in, and when I'd go in, I'd be like, you guys are you're breaking too fast. You're not even breaking on the beat. You know, like I would like, just because to me that era, especially with, they were watching tapes and they were watching Easy Rock and they were watching like Maurizio and they were watching all of these people, and, you know, B-Boy Ivan, everybody is breaking super fast, but they don't
especially
understand.
Ivan.
Yeah, especially Ivan, right? So I'm looking at them sometimes, and not Flow Rock per se, but a lot of the B-boys in Montreal, and I'd be like, no, you guys, even though I was new to it and I didn't know as much, I'd be like, I always felt like whack, because I'm like following the beat. If the beat is, you know, somewhat slower, I will follow every accent. And so I always felt whack because of that. So, but anyways, make a long story short, they don't move as fast, you know, like, and I can't go session all the time because I have 3 kids by that time, but I have that vision. And for me, the American dream is like, so I'm getting antsy, you know, and I'm like, you know, 1 year, 2 years with Flow Rock. And then I'm like, I have a computer. Nobody has a computer, because I'm always like this. Like I log myself in all those MrWiggles.net and MrWiggles.biz. And I see, you know, the events come up in the States. I see B-Boy Session come up, B-Boy Summit 99. And I'm like, I'm going there. And I went, you know, I was like,
on your own?
Yeah, I went with one of the guys from Chris from Rainbow Crew.
Okay.
So it was me and him. And I remember going, guys, man, at Flow Rock, I was like, you guys, yo, like, I can't be the first girl in Montreal to go somewhere, you know, like from all the crews to go to LA, like for B-Boy Summit. I just started. But for me, because I had that kind of, you know, I've always had that vision of going to the States. So for me, I just wanted to go explore. And B-Boy Summit, everybody that I was talking on the forum with the MrWiggles.net was, you know, you're talking to Buddha Stretch, you're talking to like Sundance, you're talking to, you know, like all of these people, you know, Wiggles, of course, and all of, like, everybody's on it. Everybody's going to B-Boy Summit. That's the only event aside from, what is it? The event in Europe, the B-Boy event.
And the Battle of the Year?
Yeah,
Freestyle
Battle
session?
of the
Okay.
Year. Yeah, Battle of the Year. Yeah, Freestyle Session came after quick, like
It was
a little
Pro-Am
bit
as
after.
well, right?
Yeah, Pro-Am in Miami was there. Then, of course, there's Rocksteady Crew Anniversary that's going. But for me, it was always like LA. I wanted to go there and check the scene, especially because of, like, you know, the popping and the locking scene. But the B-Boy Summit was really big at that time. And 99 was super big. So I went there as a B-girl, for sure. I went but then I got there and I saw all the poppers and lockers, and I saw the people in breaking, all my heroes of childhood, Pop and Tackle. And then I just was like, oh my God, I need to start locking again, you know, like, or go back into it. So I did both. I did breaking and locking and pop. I started learning how to pop and different things. I was just like wide-eyed, 30 years old.
Yeah. Well, it seems like you were, and it's funny because every time we compare flow rock to tactical, it's like, oh, tactical's the ones with the power. Flow rock are the one who like dance, but then flow rock's gonna say, no, we were complete as well, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then you tell them like, you guys aren't that much on the beat, you know. So it seems, and then I'm gonna probably have flow rock knocking on my door tomorrow, but it seems like you opened up like a third eye or something for them, a new vision on with your experience and your other street dance knowledge and being a locker to actually being on beat and all these things. It seems like you had a lot of that effect on them. And especially I'm guessing the traveling part as well, because I know one point Flow Rock started chilling a lot with like Après and all that stuff, right? So
yeah. And the thing is, it's so funny because of course they were on beat, but they were not on the rhythms, you know, and they didn't know. It's like they
saw it through a breaking lens, right?
Yeah, they're like looking at dance through a breaking lens, through power moves and stuff like that, where I'm making my stops. Like in locking, you have these stops in the music, you have these pauses, and so they would stop on the freeze. But for me, if the music went ta ta ta, I would go ta 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 with my break, you know, and I wouldn't go like, you know. So, but I felt whack because I was like, man, you know, like everybody's so good, so fast, and then like it was seamless, and especially at that time, threading was really popular, and everybody, you know, everybody's doing. And Flow Rock, of course, they're like on beat for sure compared to most people. But for me, I'm looking at something different, you know, in the music. I'm very musical. I grew up with musicians. You know, I toured with musicians, so my approach to music is different. And so when I joined Flow Rock, it was also that skill that they were looking for. As you know, I would go into their rehearsals and then they'd prepare these shows because we had, you know, battles against tacticals and things, and they would create these like more artistic shows, and I'd be like 1 2 3 4 1 2. No, guys, it's 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 in dance. You know, in music it's 1 2 3 4, and then I would correct, you know, like their timing. I would help them with their choreographies and stuff like that because that was my strength. My strength, yeah. And not to say that what they were doing was not good. They were always good. Flow Rock was always good, but they were always screaming at the young generation, like get on beat, and you guys are
they still do.
And yeah, they still do. And then I'm looking at them like, guys. And I remember, you know, like people like Boom Beast and Monster Pop when they are in Area 51, and I'd be like, don't worry, guys, you guys are good, you know, but it's like, don't, you know, like I'm trying to be the mother of everyone, and like, you know, not like, and they were like really, you know, like they rubbed a lot of people wrong, you know, because I mean, they're still like that, like you said, but it's out of like this goodness of heart. And so what I would do always for them is you know, I have that business, I had this business mind, like always, like I had the computer, and then I had, you know, like ways to do the CVs and, you know, like book them on the tour shows. Like I remember I booked Flow Rock when we did the opening for Ja Rule. I booked Flow Rock, you know, like because I'm already in that world. So, but they had their own bookings too. Like Dazzle had his own connections with more of the, you know, Mazayan and this and that, and, you know, the rappers. But I had a different type, more commercial connection. So I had the masses type of thing and then, you know, we did a lot of, you know, Just for Last Festival. And I think that was already Dazzle's connection, or DKC, I think. But the thing is that when we got more to Europe and France and doing all that work, that was me doing the work, you know, like doing the paperwork, the booking, the flights, the connections, you know, because at that point I was the only one with a computer.
One useful thing you need to have.
At that, especially, you know, you like you said, in those days there was no Instagram, Facebook, this, that. You had a phone number and a card of somebody, and the fees for calling long distance were insane. So when the computer in the late night, I got a computer maybe in 99, 98. So that computer served, a lot for me to go to book my tickets, to go to LA, to B-Boy Summit, like do all of those things. It was pretty, and going to LA and getting there and seeing these people, Ivan for the first time at that event, KML for the first time, like it was crazy. Yeah.
Damn. I'm kind of like curious to hear like your stories on how like you navigated through all of this like touring life. Like I don't want you to have to go all the way back, but like what's it like to be like a touring artist like in those earlier days of like again, like no social media, no whatever, like kind of like you're living through like a special bubble and you're moving. Like what was it like to be touring in those days? Because I don't know what's touring. Like I've never toured in my life, but like I can see what like #tour life on Instagram, like I can see what it looks like. But I don't know what was it like to tour like back then?
It was the most amazing thing. It was dramatic, because there's so much drama, so many groupies, people following to your hotel rooms, following the rappers. I mean, like the thing is I was touring with Canadian artists, that were popular, like MCJ and Koji. They were really popular at that time, and so when we're doing these shows, we're like, sometimes we're opening for other artists. So like I cross paths with people like Master P, Usher, like when you're with even Tyrese, like we're on stage with these people and it's just, we're 10 dancers most of the time, and sometimes more than that, like, because it's the whole MC Hammer thing. And as you're touring, you make a lot of connections, and it's a lot of cards exchanging. Yeah. And sometimes you don't even have a phone or a camera. Well, we didn't have those phones, forget it. We're still on beepers and maybe not even beepers yet, so not everybody could document what we had. Not everybody had the money to afford a camera. Or even even a video camera, but even a camera to take pictures. So a lot of things got lost, like where it can't be documented because it was live in the space. So luckily, by the time you go to B-Boy Summit, like there's things, they filmed their event, but on tour in the 90s, like in the clubs, there's like, it's just whatever happens. That's why the fear of missing out was so prevalent for us, because it's what you said. It's like, it's who and you have to be at the right place at the right time on the right night, So for us, when we go out and tour, the tours were built in a way that we'd hit 4 different places in one day performing for. We'd start in the morning in a morning TV show. So you do the TV show, then you go to the mall, then you do a show mall, because it's always about promotion. So the show mall with all the kids and their parents, like the show mall, like you're in the mall and then you're performing. Then you go to the high school, then you have to perform in the high school, because that, or whatever school, university, whatever it is, and you're performing there. And then at night you do the clubs, right? So that is a promotional tour. Most hip-hop artists at that time, that's how you had to do it. In those days, like people like NSYNC and Backstreet Boys, they came to Montreal. They got famous off of Montreal. They were, that's how it started for them, in places like Montreal, and then they grow their fan base, and then all of a sudden they're bigger than life. So a lot of our tours were more promotional tours. We're paid by the record labels. We're paid by Capitol. I was paid by Capitol Records. I had my checks. It was like really a time where, everybody's together. You're in the hotels, like there's parties, there's like after parties, people like in each other's room. I'd get super mad because I was a little older, and the drama would follow us back to Montreal, because it was always girlfriends of people that were with us that would, you know, like say, oh, this happened, this person didn't slept with this. Oh man, it was just too much drama. I had an awakening at that in the 90s, because I remember coming back to Montreal from these touring and go, I cannot even imagine if I had to tour with Madonna. The level of drama. This is only Canada, and the level of drama is next level. And I could go to these events where, you know, like let's say you're with these famous artists and, you know, like opening for Mary J. Blige, opening for Naughty by Nature. I did a lot of that.
Wow.
And seeing these personas and go, I hate her. I don't like Mary J. Blige, you know, because she was mean. And then hip hop, like Naughty by Nature, was super nice, you know, and you meet people and you form, and, you know, you'll never really become friends with these superstars. But at the same time, there's a level of respect that happens as you're doing it. And so that's how I built my connection, my big network. I had a huge network. And through that network, I would just book, you know, the dancers. And at that time, there was no dance schools, and there was not yet. Anyways, we're really doing community work. I'm teaching hip hop, like, no, more like aerobics, funk low aerobics. I'm doing a lot of that stuff, you know, in gyms, fitness clubs, you know, and myself, Angelo, a few of the dancers at that time, you know, Marvin, the house dancer. We're doing these. And so slowly I would, you know, get my name known this way also, and the music videos. But then when I really started booking these dance schools, then I would bring Flow Rock in. I'd be like, okay, today we're doing hip hop, but it's the hip hop culture. I would have to like come in my class and go, no, we're not just going to do choreography. Like I'm bringing, you know, Freezer in, I'm bringing like Zig in, and then they would come, because there was a moment where we're full-time, you know, dancing. And then a lot of them, you know, are dancing, but there's no revenue.
Right.
So I would give them my dance classes and go, okay, you can make this much. And so, but then Urban Element starts, you know, slowly. And then, you know, so that's how they started teaching, but there was not that, you know, at all before that. It was just like, we built it. Yeah.
So I think like every dancer or every breaker, from my impression, like when we start dancing, you're young and you're like, oh my God, I love this. And I want to be an artist for the rest of my life. And I don't want to do this forever. And I want to tour and all that stuff. And then, you know, different, you know, you learn about yourself and you get passionate about different things, but you still keep breaking or locking or whatever it may be on the side. Depends what your, I guess, main passion is. You've done it, you know, I was going to say like, you've done it all in a way. What advice would you give to people from this generation, you know, dancers who, you can take a random example, anybody from the scene who kind of wishes to be in that touring life, all that? Is there any advice you can give? And maybe even kind of, you've mentioned it a bit, but kind of like the realities of the pro dancer life, you know? Is there any advice you can give to them and how it seems? Because I think for them, it's like, and I think SUGY and I, we dreamt of it when we just started breaking in our first year. It's like, oh my God, this is like, if I can do this for the rest of my life, I'm set, you know?
Well, I'm turning 30 next month. Is it too late?
No. Hey, I went to B-Boy Summit. I was 29.
There you go. Right.
At 30.
SUGY's like, oh crap.
I had a full-time job at one point, and then I was just, because I went back to like getting some money. And I remember at 30, I went to see the Janet Jackson concert in Montreal, and because, you know, I was dancing all the time, but I wasn't full-time dancing. I had kids, so I made sure I stayed with my kids at home still. I would bring my kids to work or to session and stuff like that. But I remember that moment where I was like, nope, I'm doing this full-time. I'm going to dance full-time. And I taught 12 classes a week from Monday to Thursday. I would book myself like just teaching. That's how I paid my rent and raised my kids. And it was exhausting. But then my advice is to have your vision, like 30 is your prime. I was in my prime in my 30s, right? Because I was a lot more aware, but even you don't know everything at 30. Like I'm 50 now and I'm like, damn, you know, but at that time, 30 is like I call it the shift. It's an amazing time in your life where you get a surge of energy, and if you don't follow through, if you don't end those things that are bad and just go, like, if you don't start traveling, and, and that's the beauty of us, is that there's something great about, social media, that it connects people from far. You stay in contact with your OGs, with your pioneers, with your elders. But to do that back in the day, you had to travel, right? You had to, and there's the bonds that we formed traveling, that because it was so difficult, it was so expensive, there's a lot more respect for dancers that did it early, right? At that time. That's why I was always everybody that I met from the pioneers at that time could be Pop and Pete or Skeeter, our RIP. All of the, Pop and Taco, all of these guys that I was looking at, and Don Campbell, of course, the creator of Locking, they became my friends because they see this girl from Canada just going every year, or every 4 years, or whenever I could, like, dish that money to go to these events. And I would come home broke, like I couldn't even pay my rent. But like that stuff is not, the money is not even what I remember. Is the experience of meeting, creating that network, going to, those places where you see people. And I still remember that famous battle at B-Boy Summit, Ivan versus like KML. I was right there in front, like I was with Ivan, watching Ivan get down in the corner. I just saw like KML just jumped over my head, and I got squeezed outside. You know how they squeeze you out, because everybody's like pushing, and like it. So it was one of those things where that experience, just experience alone of being in a place, nobody knows you, but you build that slowly, those connections, that network. And that's my advice, is like, you can't live in the comfort. And I remember saying the same thing to a lot of dancers in Montreal during Bust the Move days. I was like, don't be comfortable in Montreal. Do not just, stick and be the king of Montreal. Like, just get out there, because there's so many more people that are way bigger and greater than you are. Like, I saw people that I was like, oh my God. And then they don't even dance anymore, some of them. But when you're in those ciphers, and I remember going to New York all the time, Brian Green had the house dance conference. And then even though it was a house dance conference, it was still B-boys, poppers, lockers, everybody was there, So you meet the same people that you saw at B-Boy Summit. There was this whole culture attached, this whole community attached to what we did. So that's why when Spicy started the Bust the Move, she's like, I need this judge. I'd be like, okay, I have the number. Those are my friends now, they're still my friends up to today. But when I was a kid, I was dreaming of meeting these guys, these people that inspired me to like be the dancer that I am. So that's the key. It's just your network, your connection, like reach out, go places, travel. The traveling for me was really what built my dance more, because like in Montreal is that's why I'm in Vegas, right? A lot of us leave because Montreal it has the best community in the world. Like when we talk about dance and talent and soul and funk, like Montreal, there's something about Montreal that's unbeatable. No matter where you go in the world, I talk about Montreal. But when it comes to vision and work and like just building your career, Montreal is like 20 years behind, like when it comes to the dance, the Quebec scene, like it's a bit of a sect, the contemporary scene, like when we started getting on stage, performing with Flow Rock, and then even when my little tidbit with Destiny Croisé, I was like shocked, to like how narrow-minded, a lot of the programmers were about street dance. It was just like the fear of hiring street dancers was really prevalent. And so at one point there was it's either I work full-time every day teaching dance class with a few videos here, a few connections, but if I don't sit with those sect people, like the French Quebecer, like the Quebec mafia. I call it the Quebec mafia.
So good.
You don't get very far, right? So as soon as Cirque du Soleil knocked at my door, like, and I got that gig, I was like, bye. But that was not my dream job. I was just like, no, that's a job. I'm getting out. I'm going in the States. Like that's the American dream. That's my dream. So, but following your dream is like making, like, see it in your head and making it happen is the way I did it.
I've been teaching at Rockwell Family. I don't know if you're familiar with that studio in the South Shore. I've been teaching there for 13 years now, and every year the school every year prior to COVID, but every year the school organizes a convention where they have like guest teachers from LA and other places and stuff. And just a few weeks ago, it happened again, and we were at an after party, and I was talking with one of the guest teachers from LA, and he was talking about like his life as a choreographer, traveling the world and selling these choreos and all that. And as a freestyler, as a b-boy myself, I just kept like thinking about like how is one person selling or working to teach choreographies, or how does that work? Because like me as a dancer, as a b-boy, like I teach concepts and ideas and moves and stuff, and I let people kind of like build off of that. And I was reading your bio on your website, and you had a line that went along the lines of like, your vision, your role is to kind of like help people and organizations navigate through the ins and outs of like how complicated like the essence of this street dance is. So I was wondering, like, what's your vision when doing professional work with commercial businesses and entities? Like, what's the role of TASH in this whole big machine?
That's a good question. I've been doing that for a long time. I'm either a consulting person, a consultant. I'm very underground. I come in like a spy. I'm a spy. I go in, like, a lot of people don't know, like everything you see, that changed, with Hip Hop International, like the world battles, like I helped made that happen. I brought all the OGs back to judge these events that were they're still cheerleading. I quit that a long time ago. Cirque du Soleil, same thing. I brought in, I try to have a progressive approach to dance, but keeping, the essence and the authenticity, so when people approach me and they tell me like, how can I make my event better? How can I do this better? I already go grab my network. I'm like, it's not even about me giving myself a job. I've never judged the locking portion of Hip Hop International or anything like that. But I'd be like, no, well, Don is the creator. Like, you need to bring him. Here's the number. In Cirque, I would just teach, like locking and popping. And then I'd brought Pete to teach. I'd bring, even Sugar Pop came teaching, some classes. I brought the Go-Go Brothers from Japan. There's a lot of things that I was doing. I did the same thing with the Bust the Move with Spicy. I would tell her, hey, this is the person you need to bring. This is the person you need to bring. Because I had formed these bonds. And for me, the new generation and then a lot of the industry people, they don't know anything about street dance, and they think, oh, it's easy, like I'm just gonna hire any kid off the block, make a choreography, and that works for a minute. It's like it's a 5 minute, fame, 5 minutes of fame. But the thing is that they don't know how to connect all the elements to make an event work. So I have the Las Vegas Locking Camp in Vegas, and I still bring all the pioneers. I mean, we haven't done it for a while because of the pandemic, but that's the thing. That's my role. Like in Cirque du Soleil, I'm a coach. For a long time, I was just bringing back, the essence of locking in the show the Beatles love, because I want to keep that essence alive. And even though sometimes I'm like, it's still commercial, but I try to make sure that the owners or like the producers have a direct connection with somebody that knows. And most times it could be me, but I'd rather, a lot of the times, and I think that's why there's this is what I do, and I'm recognized for more of like what I can make happen for other people, right? So, and that's why the SPY is like, I could be sitting, even ABDC in the early days before it was ABDC, it was called World Battles. It's the same, like that TV show, I was sitting on the board, looking at a lot of these, dancers, famous dancers, those who got the job and those who didn't get, like, say things about the originals and the pioneers and the elders of the b-boy worlds and the poppers and the lockers. And they're like commercial choreographers, and they would say things and I'm like, you are lying, in my head, because they want to get that job. And I saw, in being in LA and being in the commercial, I saw how it worked, how the machine works. And it's not very pretty, and that's why you don't see a lot of the authentic dance being presented, because the way it works down there is, street dancers were hard-headed, it's like, nope, it's whack, and then they want yes people, and then maybe they want one Simon Cowell, but he can't be, like us, he has to be, so it's difficult. But as a mediator, it was more of my role to like merge and be the bridge, because a lot of times, like, people in, especially Smooth and in the show that we're doing, he's 42 and he's the bridge. But in my generation, I'm the bridge, because I'm close to I'm friends with people like Shabadoo, rest in peace. Like I formed relationships with the ones that started it, So for me, I'm like their daughter, Don, it was the same thing with Don. It was the same thing. Like, I'm not that far behind Buddha Stretch, only like a few years, and Montreal, New York had this amazing relationship. So to me, that was what, gave me the people were like, okay, I believe her, because she sounds like she knows what she's talking about. I've been studying dance since forever, like, in a sense. I've been running these circles, like it could be commercial, it could be underground, behind the scenes, shows, theater. I've done it all. So when I say something, a lot of the people will be like, like she said that, when I went to Hip Hop International the first time, I told the guy, nah, this is commercial, this is cheerleading, it's kind of whack, And then I got hired to fix it. But then I realized that a lot of the times in the commercial world, what's the way it works now is not authentic as much. It's about how many followers you have on Instagram,
how much money you can make, and
and eventually, but I truly believe that all the seeds that you plant, however small they are, from the past, there comes a point where now I'm 50 and I'm like, oh my God, like I have all these things happening. I have to say no. But all the kids, I spend a lot of time with the younger generation, like helping them free, like nothing. I don't charge anything. And I remember that point where it's like, they're the ones who are screaming my name later on, It's not the people that are famous. It's always your students that once they grow, they bring you back. Spicy was my student. She brought me back to judge, to judge Buzz the Move at that time, where I'm like just having my fourth kid and I'm like kind of out of the business again, but in, and all of the guys, Boom Beast, Trek Clock, like they would be like, who's your teacher? Because they're doing the battles now. And everybody's like, who's your teacher? And they're like, oh, Tash is my teacher, or one of my teachers. And so my name would start popping back up and people like, what? Like, I thought she was the business person behind HHI. And I was like, no, they don't know I can lock. They don't know. So, but that was also a gift to go places where people don't really know me as I'm older and see how, the crap that people say and the lies so I could like be like, hey, Luther, who's a good friend of mine, Luther Brown, who's like on, now he's like super big in the US, but he's also Canadian. And I'd be like, yo, bro, they're saying this about you in the meeting, And and that's the thing, is just have your ears to the ground, I think. And a lot of these choreographers will sell their choreography for like $1,000, $2,000. But you know what? That life, it's quick. It goes quick. It's there's so many younger kids that are coming up that's going to get to that job. I don't think that that's the way to go. Personally, I think that investing in your community, in your students, and that's the way to go. That's what I've done. And I'm better for it, because that lifestyle of choreography, of like touring, and I mean, you get old quick in that world, like there's always a fresh face. Well, that's 13, that's teaching a master class, and I'm like, oh gosh, doing a
little TikTok here and there. But I think it's super well said. And the beautiful thing about everything you just mentioned is that you did it out of selfless manner. You had these opportunities for these big gigs, and you weren't like, oh, this is my time to judge or do this or do that. You brought other people into it. And you exactly did that, right? You used the community. You had natural connections from the past that it's not like you're this new person with this opportunity. It's like, hey, let me bring in this famous guy that I don't know. You've paid your dues, you've met everybody and all that stuff. So I think that's all amazing. Everything you just mentioned, right? You did it. It was all in a selfless manner. I did have ambitions, though. I'm sure you did.
But it was selfless. Like, I love to mentor kids. I love to mentor young generation. I love that. Yeah.
Well, it seems very genuine, right? So kind of to wrap things up here, because we could talk here for hours, literally. But I have a last question for you here. We kind of had in mind to ask you, like, what kind of tape revolutionized or opened your head in terms of dancing, and you mentioned Storm there. When you saw it, you're like, oh my god. But was there a tape, and it doesn't have to be breaking related, it could be just general in dancing, was there a tape that made you see things in a different way in terms of the actual dance, right? Because you were that kind of coach, who helped Flow Rock in a different light in terms of actually dancing and feeling the music. Was there a footage that you had seen back in the day that made you think, oh my god, like this is something else now?
Oh, that's a loaded question. A tape. I mean, I've seen a lot of tapes, my whole life. Is there one?
There's an accumulation of Soul Train, like all this. It goes back.
It's definitely, Soul Train was like, holy shit, what is going on down there? I want to be part of it. I want to have a bite of that. I think personally, for me, it wasn't so much. I mean, I saw Beat Street. I love that. I saw a lot of the original, like, very commercial movies. Breaking was the one, though, I think, and Michael Jackson. Because Michael Jackson, you got to understand, like, when we're growing up, when Michael Jackson started, like, I was still a kid, and then he's still like in the Jackson 5. And so Michael Jackson, when the music videos started coming and the choreographies and then the dancers, and I'd see the poppers. I didn't know the poppers were in there. I'd see all of it. I still remember, like, freaking out, going like, I want to be behind Michael. I want to meet Michael. Of course, I met Michael Jackson. I'm lucky. I had that I've been able to, have my vision happen, like my dreams. I would dream of Michael Jackson. I would dream. And I remember watching Breaking One. When I saw Shabba-Doo, and of course, Soul Train, I'm watching that. I want to be there. I want to be in the US. I don't know. I remember calling on my phone. Different like places in the US, like to try to audition, and be like, no, you don't have a visa. No, and I'd be like, what? And try to make these things happen. But really, Breaking One, and you think, it's kind of like You Got Served for a lot of the generation after me. And for me, You Got Served was like, I know those people, like, but they were good. Like I love Flowmaster. I love, like, you know, those are my teachers too.
Wait, Flowmasters and you got served?
Yeah. Yeah,
I need to watch it again.
Crew. Yeah, he's in that crew. He's in that crew that's like battling at one point the other crew, and he's locking. You see, he's in there. Actually.
Is he battling Wicket or he's with Wicket?
I think he's with Wicket battling, but I'm not sure. Like
Anyway.
I have to remember. I haven't seen.
Yeah.
Like, so he's in You Got Served, but at that point, all these movies are popping up. But I like that breaking scene, one, you know, and then, you know, you got that they're trying to raise funds, you know, Breaking Two too, of course, because Breaking Two, they're raising funds for that community center, right? But in Breaking One, you got Shabadoo, who's on top of the building, and there's like the palm trees and then the nice sun and the beach, you know, you got Venice Beach, everybody's battling there, but he's like kind of swaying on top of the building, like with his legs, you know, like looking at the horizon. And I'm sitting in the theater. I'm like maybe 14 years old, 13, 14. I can't speak a lick of English at that point, right? But I'm like, I'm going there. This is what I want to do. I want to do this dance, this locking dance. From that point, everything, and also Michael Jackson, like whatever Michael Jackson did, I was like, you know, I have to like imitate everything he does.
Right.
I tried everything, spin on my back, like whatever was on TV, I wanted to achieve it. And so I think that that's what it was. After that, we had so many videos at that time that it's hard to pinpoint one. For sure, when I saw that video that DKC brought from Belgium and you know, like, or DJ Zadio, when I saw Storm, it kind of pushed Montreal to get back, you know, because we're like, wait, what's happening? What, Europe didn't stop? Like, and we had stopped too long, you know. There's still like little clusters of people like fooling around. But I think that it had that same thing for all of us in terms of breaking. That's when I want to break again. I was like, shit, I don't want to spin on my head, but there was this whole thing, the theater aspect. I also saw another tape also that kind of brought me back. I saw Sundance and Sugar Pop in a tape from France, and they were performing on stage, locking, and that was 96. And that tape was rolling around at the same time as the Storm tape. And then all of a sudden, you know, like, it's just, you know, every day at DKC's house or, you know, whatever dancer's house, we're watching footage of course, Maurizio. For us, it was, you know, Ivan for sure. We were like, holy, like, is it sped up? Like, we couldn't figure it out until I saw him live. I was like, no, it's not sped up. He's that crazy. He's real. And Maurizio and Easy Rock, because Easy Rock at that time had come with Asia One to Montreal. Like Wiggles would come, we had Sauna, we had Battles. So there was this whole like era of like tapes where we're just like, you know, watching. But I could say for sure Breaking One was the one that, you know, like made me want to pursue the American dream and go out there, aside from Michael Jackson. Nice. Right. But if you watch it now, it's like, it's so tacky, you know.
But it works. It just works, and it has like this mysterious kind of like mystery to it, right? That back then was probably kind of like sparking so much in everyone's like head and heart. And I was gonna say, I kind of hate that you just slipped like that you met Michael Jackson, but I guess that this is gonna be for another time. But
maybe part two.
Maybe a part two. You've been so generous of your time, and we really appreciate your knowledge and your generosity and your stories. It's amazing to get to know you. Like we were saying before recording, like, we've been Camille and I, we've been like dancing since like 2009, and like your name has come up like so many times, and like we literally, I don't even think I crossed path in a jam with you, like, or maybe like at BAM or something, but like, it's insane. Like there's so much that's untold from like the stories of everyone, and
there's a lot of things. Like for me, like I know I used to go out. There's so many jams in Montreal. Like And every time I come back to Montreal, I wish I could just really do that life. But I have like 5 grandkids. I have, you know, like so many like little things that I have to do, always touring with b-boyism, and you know, and my body is taking a lot of my time.
Talk about that.
No, we didn't talk about that, but we could do the next. That was a whole like me and DKC, like man. But I feel like I'm back more now, and in Canada and Montreal, whereas before I kind of was stuck in the US. My daughter was too young. I couldn't like just leave all the time. Now my husband was working in Cirque du Soleil too, so like it was very difficult. But now that he's working at home and he's like a developer, like he's coding and stuff, so I can go out more often. And so hopefully I'll meet you both. But I definitely heard of both of you. I hear about everyone. I know everything about Montreal almost. You know?
That's awesome.
The real spy.
Before we let you go, we have these traditional rapid fire questions that we ask our guests. They're just like short questions, and you can like give us like a 1-word answer or develop a little bit if you want. So if you're ready, we'll get started. Who's your favorite MC or hip hop group? That's right. Just one.
What? Oh my God, just one?
Just one.
Shit. You're killing me.
Okay, just say like an era.
My God, no, but you're just killed me now, because this is impossible. Like my favorite MC or hip hop group. My taste in music is so vast. I could say,
you want to say like Michael Jackson?
Like he's not even a hip hop. Like that's what it is, you know. But okay, Dilla.
Oh, sweet, nice. What's one artist that's playing on repeat right now in your phone?
Oh snap! Well, it's called he's called Stokely. I just found his new album. So he's the original singer from Mint Condition, and he just came up with a new album, and I'm listening to it like just kind of confused and going, "Whoa, what's this new?" He's on repeat because he's like, there's a track with Snoop Dogg, and I'm like, this is a pretty good track, but it almost sounds like K-pop sometimes. But how K-pop is biting everything from like the R&B days now. So
interesting. Stokely.
Stokely.
What's a matchup you'd love to see right now? A dance matchup, like a dance battle matchup.
A dance matchup. I would love to see Brian Green Roselet twins.
Okay.
Okay. We can like make that famous, and
You heard it here first, people. I love it.
That's mean, but whatever.
Too late. No edits.
Tash unleashed.
That's the episode thumbnail right there. What's your favorite jam ever of all time?
That's another tough question, eh?
My favorite jam of all time, Bust a Move.
Nice. All of them. Just all of them.
Just say Bust a
Move.
Honestly, like I've been a few years like back to back, and they're they all were just as great. Like Bust a Move never got whack, or never like it was just always a good time.
I mean, you know, like the problem, like I loved going to a lot of these jams in New York and stuff like that. Even like B-Boy Summit, but the thing is that the quality would go down with the years, you know, and then sometimes you just show up and then the event would not start, or like it was just a mess, you know. And but Bust a Move, and also like Spicy's my girl, but the thing is that it's like all the way up until the end it was quality.
Right.
And it got better and better and better. And then, but the community that came and like the people, everybody, even my pioneers, my OGs would come and go, oh my God, I want to marry Montreal, you know? And because, you know, like I haven't been to Montreal or any other jam like lately, there's a lot of things around the world that's happening. I mean, I've done just debut and that was great, but it's like something about like how all the Americans say, there's something about Montreal's water. Like there's some funk sauce in it, you know, like there's the people, everybody wants to move to Montreal. So I could definitely say that was my favorite, you know, like jam, you know.
Nice.
Shout out to Spicy.
Yeah. Shout out to Spicy.
No explanation. Who's your favorite Montreal dancer with no explanation?
Putting her on the spot.
My favorite Montreal dancer, Junior Boogie.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah, but yeah, no explanation. Yeah,
that's it. That's
it. Favorite kicks for breaking or dancing in general. Favorite shoes to dance in.
Well, you know what? That is a funny story because everybody thinks they're whack. But my Vans,
nice.
My Vans is. I've learned something about flat foot. It's good for your feet, right?
Yeah.
So I just like for me. That's
you dance in like low tops. Or that,
yeah.
Okay, cool, nice.
As you age, things happens with your feet, and definitely like the arch like too high. Like there's like a ankle twist and stuff. I've learned, I've realized that's what the problem is. So the lower that I am to the floor, I can feel the ground for any types of dances. And now they have these great comfy cush, like they have a little cushion in, and it's like a little bit more comfortable. But I really love it. And when I saw Frank Boogie. Who's like a favorite dancer of mine too, in Toronto. Like he also dances in Vans, and we're like, yeah. But then Smooth thinks I'm white. He thinks it's whack. He's like, yeah. So, but we're like, you know, I'm trying to show him like new model. I know it's not great, but they're good. They're good. They make me feel the ground, and that's important for balance. Yeah.
Yep. Nice.
Yeah.
What's a power move you wish you had?
Just a backflip.
Let's go.
A simple backflip. You know, I always had that fear of like, and I could do it. I practice it. I practice it, but I just wanted that backflip, you know. But now I'm getting older, like so. You're more careful. But just a simple backflip would have been fun, you know. Everything else is almost achievable, but I just kind of gave up on them, like spinning on my head started like giving me pain. You know, like windmills were like and then of course all the now people are doing some crazy stuff like the new generation. I just it's like superhero shit, you know.
The last few questions are again with no explanation. All right. West Coast or East Coast?
Oh no!
I feel like we're torturing people sometimes with these questions, and I feel bad making them answer.
Oh my God, it's hard. Oh man, I can't answer that question. It's like
fine.
It's a tie for me.
You're gonna get in trouble.
No. Wait. No, I have to go with. Oh no, I can't.
Yo, none of the coast police is gonna come on the show and like.
Okay. No, but it's a very difficult. It's a very okay, but yeah, I'm gonna go with East Coast.
Okay, cool.
Even though I love West Coast, but East Coast for sure.
All right, so we'll see if you're consistent here. 2-pack or Biggie?
Oh no! You see, that's when
we cross the line.
That's when I'm a 2-pack girl.
Yeah, let's go.
Know, that's why West Coast is like I'm a 2-pack girl.
Okay.
Ken Swift or Maurizio?
Ken Swift.
Let's go. Premiere or the RZA?
Ooh, Premiere.
And now you can explain a little bit if you want. What's the Montreal style? What's like
the water in Montreal?
What's with the water in Montreal?
Yeah, it's the funk sauce. You know, Montreal has that funk swag, whatever is that word is like passe or like, but yeah, Montreal is the bedrock of the party scene. Montreal is like Brooklyn, you know. Montreal is like, it's very East Coast. It's down, you know, it's grounded. I think that's the word. Montreal is so grounded in art and culture and multicultural that you know, it creates these amazing artists. And I just want these artists to just, you know, go out there, show their talent, you know, because everybody gets curious about Montreal and why we're so good and why there's so many great dancers, you know, hailing from Montreal. So yeah, the groundness, the funk sauce, the water.
Let's go. Tash, this was an honor, legit. Like it was really a pleasure to chat with you. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you
Tash.
much. Thank you guys. Thank you.